Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, give to God what belongs to God. One of the questions that always haunt us is society and church, governor or politics and church, state and church. Do they go together or they are opposed of each other? If you look at the first reading today, God used pagan king to bring his message and to fulfillment of the people of God to build the temple, restore themselves as a nation, and come back to the promised land. It was Cyrus who decreed that the Jews that was brought by Nebuchadnezzar 70 years ago in Babylon, they will return home with a purpose of building the temple, building themselves as a community, and they will also worship the true God. We know that in the gospel today, Jesus was confronted by some men that was sent by the Pharisees to trap him in words, to see if they can quote him, to see if he say, no, don't pay the tax, or why pay the tax, they are foreigners, we own the country. But Jesus said, give me a coin. He said, whose inscription is this? And whose image is this? Caesar. So you give Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give God what belongs to God. What does that mean? That means that we are one person and subject to two authorities. We know that the church is a state. In fact, we call it a perfect state. And the state is created by all of us because we want somebody to govern us. And to govern us so that they will bring order, they will bring defense to us, and they will help us, especially in those moments in our life when can be very tough. And so we are one person subject to two things. And so what the state do and the church do, they have to work together. And many people say, well, this is not the policy of America. America say there is a separation of church and state. That's what you say. It is not true. If you look at the constitution of the country, there is no hostility between church and state. The state is one thing, but any one of you have to have his own faith, because none of our faith is the faith of the state. And so they don't contradict each other, but they have to work in parallel with each other. When do we ignore the state? When the state goes against the principle of the commandments, when he goes against the principle of the gospel, then we are not obliged to obey the state. But in other reasons, we must obey the state, because the state was created by God. You say, what are you talking about? Remember when Jesus was in front of Pontius Pilate? What did Pilate say to him? Do you know that I have the power to destroy you, or the power to release you? What Jesus said, no power was given to you, but was given from above. So every power, every right power, comes from God. And God gave us that intelligence to rule ourselves, so that each one of us will live in harmony with one another, so that we don't steal other people's good, we don't kill each other, we are not going to do anything to each other to harm each other, so that we live in peace with one another, so that we who are human come to understand the joy of this existence, that God gave us a privilege to live in harmony with one another. And so the idea that we, sometimes cheating the government, because after all, that there is so much money wasted by the government. What is good? That why I cannot do something that I prefer or bring things towards me? And we are going to say, did you earn money? Yes, you did. Do you understand that from that money, some percentage is being given to the government, and it was given to the government for the common good? Imagine if every one of us say, I am not going to pay taxes tomorrow. There will be 7 people who are not going to have money in their pockets. There are going to be people who are not out of a job because they can find a job and they don't have some money for them every month. Imagine you, if you don't give money to the government or to your taxes, then don't claim Social Security. Don't think that you can take but not give. While you are working, you gave towards. Now that you retired, you are going to gain from what you gain, and others are helping you to survive till you pass away. And that is very important that we understand why Jesus was very, very strong about this. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to the government what belongs to the government. You own the money, you earn the money, you are to pay the tax over that money. Well, we are paying too much taxes. That's something that we need to really talk with our law people, those people who represent us in Washington, and try to convey to them the importance of lowering taxes, not because we want to have more money in our pocket, because these young families, if they don't have that much and you are taking much from them, they are going to separate. They are going to have a disaster in their life. They need to really live comfortably because they have children to raise. And they need to understand that if they have children, something will be given towards that, so that they will not be in a stream. We need to find people who really are pro-family. How many times, we come to elections and we say, I'm going to vote for my party because I am this and I am that. That's wrong. You vote for the individuals who are pro-family. Well, that means they are going to reduce taxes. They are going to do the best they can to promote life. They are doing the best they can to really help families. Because without families, tomorrow is not going to be. Many people say, well, today young people do not have children. But do you understand why they cannot have children? Because to have a child is a great responsibility and brings also responsibility of finance. If I am making $10 a week, I cannot have another child when I already have 2. Because I don't have enough money to take them to the doctor, to educate them, to give them a good shelter, to clothe them, to do all kinds of things that children require of parents. And that's why when you go to those booths to vote, you don't vote because you like the candidate. You vote because the candidate have a vision, and that vision is the family. When we support family, we are going to have a future. When we don't support family, we are going to have a disaster, because each one of us come from families. And if our parents did not have the assistance because of the hardship they work, and from what they really get from the big family they have, the reduce of taxes, they will never make it. And so today, as we go to celebration of the Mass, let us listen to St. Paul when he is writing to the people of Thessalonica. These people, he loved them very much. And he loved them very much not because they were sending him money or because they were favoring him, because they were living the faith. They were people of authenticity. They were living the faith of the Trinity. They were living the faith of loving one another. They were living the faith because they acknowledged God as the supreme being among them. And they want to share that faith not only by their lips but by their commitment. As St. Paul said at the end of the letter, he said, you learn this from my preaching and my convictions that I have taught you. In other words, it's not something that you take and leave. This is something that if you believe, you must live what you believe. And that is one lesson we need to learn, because that complements then what we have been talking about church and state. We need to live as good citizens. We need to live as people who are responsible of our people around us. We need to live by people who really have a conscience, not only to support the state because I am of this party, or I am of this, because it is obligation that I have in my conscience to do so. And then when I do that, then I testify that I give God His due. Believe me, when people cheat in different things of this world, they cheat even on the love of God. You know what Jesus said? Those who are trusted in small things can be trusted in big things. So that little thing that we do, our responsibility, is going to prove that we can be trusted with the greatest thing, especially the preaching of the gospel. Let us go to the celebration of the Mass today. And many times those thoughts that comes to our mind, what shall I do? Remember the word of Jesus. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. After all, you have more than enough. And then what you have, give thanks to God, because He is the one who provided for you. So the idea of, shall we pay taxes? The answer is yes. And we do it because our conscience requires it. God bless you.